What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new playthrough for Shoujo, the last episode. This is just going to be a playthrough of, I guess, the prologue section of the game, because of course the full translation for the last episode is not out yet, so until that comes out, we're just going to be doing the prologue, so yeah. At least we get something from this game, because, I mean, I've been looking forward to it for a long time. It's still, unfortunately, the whole thing's not in English as of this recording, so this is all we get for now, so I guess we'll just have to be satisfied with that. But yeah, like I said, I've been pretty excited for this, so that all being said, let's get right into it. Okay. The snow continues to pile up in Tokyo on the eve of February. We still have the theme of snow, much like in the second episode. Oh, Toko. I really wish she would have survived, but we gotta have our tragic, bittersweet endings in these games, so of course she could never live, no matter what you do. Even now, I feel no sorrow at all. Shrouded in her black kimono, Chizuru Kuchiki utters that quietly. Is this feeling relief? Everything is finally over, and this is how I feel. I knew I was a terrible mother, and yet... Chizuru shakes her head. The only reason I held a funeral like this for her was because my brother requested it. The woman clutches onto a portrait of a young girl. There was no way I could leave it to you, Tokisaka. After all, this is a funeral without any remains. The girl in the portrait is looking away from the camera, without any sort of smile. It's as if she averts her gaze, unable to condemn me for my own failures. Not once did she ever smile at the camera. She gently brushes the portrait with her finger. I was unable to reach her through the lens of the camera, but touching her directly was scary. Chizuru stumbles on her words and looks away from the portrait of the now deceased girl. Miss Kuchiki. What is it? If you'll allow it, may I have a part of the ashes if her body is ever returned? Ashes, huh? That's fine with me. She tilts her head in confusion as she nods. Thank you so much. There's somewhere I want to take her. It's more like there's somewhere I want to send her off. Well then, I shall be taking my leave. Chizuru bows and passes by me. The young girl's portrait still remains on the porch. I won't be able to talk with her anymore. The happy moments, the sad moments, her wonderful art. This portrait is a stark reminder of the reality before me. Back then, I steeled myself for this. At least, I thought I did. We really only talked for about a month, but in that short time, her disappearance left a deep, gaping hole within me. Now that she's gone, I have to honor her life as I move forward. That's what I tell myself. But contrary to my emotions, my body won't move an inch. I stare at the portrait now as I'm sitting on the porch. The smile she had when she looked at me is nothing more than a distant memory. Ugh. I cling onto the edge of the porch. Splinters dig into my fingers. Nevertheless, I keep gripping firmly. If I let go for even a moment, I'll crumble for sure. I am but an empty husk. There's a void replacing who she once was. Will that void ever be filled? Is it even alright for me to try and fill it? I kneel before her portrait and clasp my hands. Toko. Nothing else comes out. I don't even know what I should say. Anything I say will sound like an excuse. I couldn't rescue her, so now what? My knees collapse on the ground, wet from the snow. Such a happy story. I grasped onto the portrait for dear life. She, Toko Kushiki, is dead. I told myself as much 2 years ago. And yet, in spite of all that, I still feel the paranoia eating away at me. There was a girl named Toko Kuchiki. 2 years ago, in the spring of Emperor Showa's 31st year as Emperor, I met her. I remember her strange request to find her true self. At first, I thought she was simply being playful. She was involved in an accident and needed to have her limbs amputated in order to have a chance of survival. I later found out that there was a reason for doing that. She was pregnant. I only learned that the other day when I discovered her remains. I don't even know where her child is now. After performing surgery to help with her childbirth, it's believed that Naori Kuria took the child. We don't know her whereabouts either. In the past week, I left the search for Naori Kuria to the police. There's only so much a private detective like me can do. At least that's what I told Yaginuma. In all actuality, I don't have the willpower to move at all. I know I should be searching for that child, but when I found Toko's remains, it was like a thread snapped. I know her skeleton was the conclusion to my ongoing search for Toko's body, and yet, when January came to a close, the Kuchiki family held a funeral service for Toko, and that was the first time in a while I stepped outside. We sent the girl's body for an autopsy, so the remains still haven't returned to her family. Regardless, the funeral service went on, perhaps as a service not for the deceased, but for those who are still alive. Wait a second. That sounds vague. That sounds oddly familiar to that line from Tsukihime. I wonder if they just were like, hey, we're just gonna take that. We're gonna use that for this game. However, for me, who's still alive and kicking, the funeral only made my hollowness even worse. I knew she'll never come back. Nothing will ever change that. For those of us still here, there's nothing we can do but carry on forward. If I don't, I'll remain forever hollow. No one will ever replace her. However, what's important is not crumbling under the weight of that emptiness. The void is proof that she existed, and in order to honor that, the only thing I can do is move forward. I dragged my heavy body back to my home library. There, I flipped through my notebook that has remained here since then. I have to finally put an end to the case that's been going on since last month. A new religious sect, the Blessed Congregation, rose from the ashes of Senri when it dissolved during the Ueno incident. They found a girl and proclaimed her as the Holy Prophet. That girl, Yukiko Kayahara, had killed her friend. And now, she's detained by the police. I talked with the psychiatrist who examined her. It was determined her mental condition was unstable during the incident, so it's likely she won't be held criminally responsible for the incident. Despite that, it'll likely be a long time before she can return home. I'm not some sort of hero or police watchdog, so even if an acquaintance of mine turns out to be a criminal, I want to help them out. Which is stark contrast to my work as a detective, where I have to expose the secrets and truths that others are hiding. One more person has been arrested for this incident, Nanako Sawashiro. She's obediently complying with the authorities. The punishment for patricide is normally strict, that being execution, but taking her circumstances into account, she'll likely have some wiggle room for a lighter sentence. However, she would not divulge on Naori Kuria's whereabouts more than she'd already said before. Perhaps she really doesn't know. As for the child, we couldn't find any more information at the Mountain Lodge, but she believed the child will be safe. Since she's unable to conceive herself, she probably thinks of that child as her own. I have some complex emotions regarding that. Nonetheless, she definitely was the one who raised her. I feel grateful for her for that. I leave my library and head back to my room. January will finally be ending tonight. I cover the charcoal in the hibachi with ashes as I lay out the futon. It's still freezing at night. I pray for that child's warmth and safety as I ready myself for bed. Sphere of Fire. The first day of February is a Saturday. When I wake up and grab a cup of coffee from the kitchen, I see Yukari in her school uniform. Yukari, the newspaper? Oh, right. I asked her a casual question, but for some reason, Yukari averts her gaze and hesitates. I'll bring it to you now. She heads down the kitchen. There's something on her mind, but I have no clue what it is. Apologies for the wait. Yeah, sorry about that. She gives me the newspaper. Where do you plan on heading today? Yukari asks me that as if it's rare for me to be up so early in the morning. Nowhere in particular. Did something happen? No, nothing like that. It's just that lately, you've been waking up really late. Well, yeah. I glanced through the front page. The paper describes the ongoing space race between the Americans and the Soviet Union. Seems like the Americans will launch a satellite following in the footsteps of the Soviets. I honestly have no idea what a satellite would be used for, but technology is really evolving at a rapid rate. I'll be heading out now. Yukari puts on her coat and grabs her bag. Yeah, take care. I'll see you later. Yukari exits the living room, leaving the house in silence. Seems like Yukari has been taking care of me a lot. The sounds of turning the newspaper echo through the room. An article in the local news catches my eye. Mr. Shinzo Mamiya has died of illness during his incarceration. Shinzo Mamiya, he was the genius painter who was the organizer of the incident that took Toko last winter. He was the one who transformed Toko's biological mother onto the canvas. Now she's immortalized in the painting, Girl in the Shell. So he died, huh? I don't really feel too strongly either way hearing about his death. Spending his last days in prison with such a decrepit body probably did a number on him. No. I hold my head. It's not like that. A little more thinking and I should come to an answer myself. My emotions are fried right now. I feel completely spent. In all honesty, I've likely genuinely broken down. The coffee tastes cold in my mouth. The bitterness on my tongue clears my mind a bit. Even if he did die of illness, he lived a life that brought color into the world, and now it's extinguished. The article only states he died of illness. No other details are listed. If that's all there is to it, then there would be no incident to investigate, but for some reason, something just feels off. I take a cigarette from my breast pocket and put it into my mouth. Then I remember I can't smoke in the house. Damn it, I'm not thinking straight. Well, that's been my life for the past week or so. I finish the rest of the coffee in my cup and fold the newspaper. I'd better head outside for a smoke and to cool my head. I grab my coat and car keys before I head out of the house. I start the car as the unlit cigarette remains hanging in my mouth. Shinzo Mamiya is dead. Let's get to the heart of the matter here. The previous incident is essentially over. While he was the source of the incident, he did not play a direct part in it. Of course, if he didn't exist in the first place, this would never have happened. On the other hand, it does no good further condemning the dead. Everything's over now. No matter what we do, the victims won't be coming back. Before I know it, I'm standing in front of the police station by Sakurada Gate. I came here on a whim. No, rather I came here of my own volition. At least that's what I think, but I don't even know what my own volition is anymore. Ever since the incident was settled, I haven't come back once. There's nothing for me to do here, but more importantly, I'm not in the mood to work. I came to work, but I'm not really in the mood to work, I just came here on a whim. Without saying a word, I find myself in the criminal investigation room. I spot Ryochi Yaginuma at the administrator desk, isolated from the desks of the other investigators. Yaginuma. A pleasure seeing you here, Mr. Detective. Yaginuma raises his head as he adjusts his glasses. Feeling better now? I sure hope so, or how else will I put food on the table? There's no need for me to tell the truth. I don't have anything for you to investigate, unless there's something else you have on your mind. Why not take a wild guess? Today's newspaper is stuck between the mountains of papers on his desk. You mean Shinzo Mamiya's death? He takes out the newspaper and opens it. It happened like how the papers described it. We discovered him dead in his cell yesterday. The cause was heart failure. Besides, We had informed him that his son, Shinji Mamiya, was found dead. I'm sure that took a toll on his body and mind. Seems like he doesn't feel anything either. Well, in this case, this is all just work for him. This is all just a bother. All of this has nothing to do with being a police officer. What is? Shinzo Mamiya has no close living relatives. They're all dead, and his distant relatives are currently on military duty or cut ties with him completely. So his inheritance. But he's a well-known artist, so selling his works would net a huge return. Besides his assets, he's knee-deep in debt too. He hasn't been creating anything for the past 10 years either. You have a point. This isn't something the police should be doing. That's more of a detective's job. However, I don't think he'll request me to do it. Anyways, you have any idea on Aoi Kurya's whereabouts? Our subordinates are diligently searching for him. Besides that, we don't have any other updates, which means there's no progress. He definitely used that place as a hideout before, but it's unlikely that he would have dropped by before he fled. You're right, because there weren't any traces of someone living there recently. Even the most recent eyewitness reports are over a year old. Correct. If that's the case, he likely wouldn't have escaped Yamanashi Prefecture. An adult male carrying an infant would definitely leave an impression to any passerbys. Even he understands that. That's why he'll likely avoid any crowded stations and seclude himself within a metropolitan area. But of course, Yaginuma isn't an idiot either. And yet, we still haven't found him. Without any sort of additional information, this is simply a wild goose chase. Changing gears, Yaginuma, with the autopsy done, when do you think the body will be returned? I haven't the foggiest clue, but regardless, her body will be cremated here at the very least. I know. There's no way they'll return her body like that. The funeral was yesterday, I presume. Unfortunately, I couldn't drop by. You'd only be a nuisance if you can. Damn. Well, I can't blame him. Yaginuma's kind of a dick, so he probably would be. I'd have more luck asking Natsume about Toko. Sorry for bothering you. I'll come back if you figured something out. I head towards Takeda no Baba. A bicycle is parked in front of the Takashiro clinic. I stop myself before I enter. Will I be able to compose myself if I see Toko's remains in front of me? And they're doing an autopsy. They're required to cut apart the body in order to determine the cause and time of death. Hey, nice seeing you, Tokisaka. Oh god, this woman. I cannot stand this woman. She's like one of the most obnoxious characters. I hear Natsume's voice from behind me. Hello, Natsume. I went out to buy a few things, you know. Natsume opens the door as I notice her carrying a paper bag. You need me or something? I came to hear the autopsy results for the body found in Okutama. Ah, Dad. Sorry, it's not here. Really? Despite me coming here for nothing, I feel relieved. It's just bones. The university kids are handling it. That means it'll take longer. Seems like it. If the grieving family says something, it might come back quicker, you know? What is with the way she's talking? I mean, I guess it is kind of similar to how she was talking in the original game. She kind of has that, like, what was it, like a Kansai accent, I think? I feel a bit frustrated, knowing I don't have that power. Coming in? Natsume opens the door, looking at me expectantly. No, I'll be going now. Yeah, you know what'll happen if you come in. See you then. Natsume walks inside. I'm back at my office in Shinjuku. I don't really have a reason to be here, but I should at least check up on him. Oh boy. Who is it? I think we all know who it is. Which reminds me, I haven't instructed him on anything for the past week. His fate is directly linked to Aoi Kurya, so it's unlikely he'll go off on his own. To my surprise, my office is empty. My documents are neatly tidied up on my desk, and the blanket is folded away in the corner of the room. I guess he was raised well, or maybe I'm just too lax about cleaning up after myself. I feel like it's kind of the latter, honestly. His office is usually a mess. I notice a notebook I've never seen before on the desk. The words "Investigation Journal" are sprawled on the front. I guess he made it. If it's a personal diary, I'd have some reservations about taking a peek, but since this is just an investigation report, I have no issues with taking a look. I turn the page. The date's from last week. Investigated around Hachioji Station, no eyewitness reports. Investigated around Tachikawa Station, no eyewitness reports. Investigated around Tamagawa Josui Station, no eyewitness reports. He's working harder than I thought, but I don't think Naori will appear out of nowhere by visiting every station possible. Oh, Tokasaka. A jarringly relaxed voice calls out to me. I turn my head. Tomoyuki Masaki, the employee that I found by chance who lives at the office. Masaki, you investigating this? Yeah, I've been doing what I can. Hey, don't just look in there. Masaki grabs the notebook I've been reading through. It's your investigation report, so it's important to scan over it. I was planning on investigating a bit more before I'd report to you. Did you go to another station today? Yeah, but no one has seen him. I've told them about the baby and any distinctive features, but still. I mean, he'll know if he goes to any station, his chances of being seen are high. Yeah, seems like this work is all for nothing. A detective's job is usually wasted effort regardless. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Alright, I'll keep going at least. You should at least get a receipt for the train fares you've been paying. That's rare. Normally you'd make me foot the bill. Shut up. It's annoying when he talks back like this. Anyways, I'll leave searching for Naori up to you. I should start moving myself, but my emotions haven't caught up with me yet. And you, Tokasaka? I'm investigating other things. It's not a lie. Even so, saying it out loud really drives home that it's simply a convenient excuse. Okay, so what is this so far? Just the daily life of Reiji? Oh boy, it's our favorite cafe with our favorite person working there. I already forgot her name, but I know that she's probably, like, honestly, in my opinion, the most attractive character in this game. With the next day being a Sunday, I decide to head down to Moonworld in Kichijoji. Oh, that's right, it's Kyoko. Ah, welcome. Kyoko greets me as usual. Can I get a coffee? Yeah, just hold on a moment. Kyoko turns her back to me. I take a seat on the stool by the counter. Kyoko is still moving around a bit sluggishly. Although she's been discharged from the hospital, her wound hasn't fully recovered yet. Oh, that's right, she got stabbed. Hey, Kyoko. Yeah? Kyoko, still holding my glass, turns to look at me. Well, can you make my coffee a bit more black this time? The right words just don't come to mind, so I make something up on the spot instead. Still tired? Yeah, pretty much. She puts my coffee on the counter. Here, for you. Thanks. I bring the cup to my mouth. This coffee is black, just how I ordered it. The heat and bitterness coat my mouth. A sense of relief washes over me as I take in the familiarity. A brand new flower on the counter catches my eye. And that? That was a gift from my successful recovery from Ozumi. He called up a local florist to deliver it to me and all. Seems like he's as loyal as always. I just seriously feel bad for that guy. He's got such a crush on this woman, but Reiji's been hooking up with her, so it's kind of I don't know, if I were Reiji and I knew about that, I would honestly feel really bad. I'm like, god damn. I should probably give her a gift too. How's your work going? Kyoko asks me as she's polishing a silver spoon. Well, I'm waiting for someone right now. They should be coming here soon. I shift my gaze to the cafe entrance. It doesn't seem like she's coming yet. Besides, this really isn't work. It's more like I'm having an idle conversation. Alright, I'll go prepare more coffee and tea cakes then. Thanks. Taking my coffee cup with me, I move to one of the inner tables. There, I find this morning's paper. Might as well read through it to pass the time. All I see is Shinzo Mamiya's obituary. Seems like there's no other follow-up article. If Yaginuma is really telling the truth, then there's nothing else to report. In the meantime, I look at the article that details the success of the satellite launching. I hear the doorbell and my eyes turn towards the entrance. Oh, it's her. Sorry for calling you out here. It's Toji Aoki, the one-armed silver-haired journalist. She has an interesting history and all, given she used to be one of the big shots in an underground organization. It's fine with me. I'll just let the police handle that. Alright then. She doesn't prod any deeper. You seem surprisingly calm. I just woke up. My coffee still hasn't cooled down. Did you hear about Shinzo Mamiya? There's no point in beating around the bush. I heard he's involved in that old case you were tied up in. Toji puts a cigarette in her mouth. You're going to write a story on that? No, I'm simply interested in it. Oh, do you mind if I smoke? She lights her cigarette as she asks me that. I don't care. I push the ashtray towards Toji. Sorry. With the cigarette lit, the smoke drifts towards the ceiling. In terms of Shinzo Mamiya, it just feels like he's the center of these incidents. I'm not an expert by any means, but many deaths have happened around him. Girl in the shell. I heard he turned his assistant's body into a statue. That scene flashes back in my mind. It all happened within the basement of the Shinzo Mamiya estate. He'll do anything if it's for the sake of the arts, but that was before the war. He hadn't created anything since Girl in the Shell. Kyoko brings over some coffee and castellas, which shuts me up for a moment. Here's your food. Thanks. Toji brings the cup to her mouth. And there's his son, Shinji Mamiya, or rather, Shin Katsuragi. I guess it does run in the family. For Shinji Mamiya, someone laid out the groundwork for his madness. Kyoko returns to the counter, so we continue over conversation. Shinzo, or rather Shinji Mamiya's mother, Miyuki Mamiya, abused him as a child and he subsequently murdered her. Even now, so many people have been caught up in their family turmoil. And the whereabouts for the Girl in the Shell statue is still unknown. Yeah. After we recovered it from Shinzo Mamiya's estate, Ryoku Shiki stole it before we could perform an autopsy. Even after his arrest, he won't divulge the location. The woman that was created into the statue, Miss Nakahara, should be given a proper burial. It's likely hidden somewhere within the city, somewhere that's concealed from the prying eyes of the police. You make it sound like that's what happened. It is. Even though I washed my hands clean of all this messy business, I know a few places like that. Toji takes a castella. This is delicious. Well, yeah, she does make them here. I look at Kyoko. Well, if we don't have any eyewitnesses, we'll just have to diligently search every nook and cranny. I know. There's just too many things we have to find right now. Normally, any detective would be pining at the opportunity to search for something like that, but I'll pass on that. I'm not the best when it comes to these things. You're simply used to chasing after murderers, right? Why not hire a detective that's an expert at finding lost items? Toji raises an eyebrow and chuckles. That shithead's still busy raising his kid. Oh. Of course it would be him. He's the only other detective that comes to mind for me. But this is the first time I'm hearing that he's an expert at finding lost items. But a kid, huh? I can't help but repeat that word I just said. Now Rikuria and that infant jump into my mind. I have to find that child at any cost. Only the people who were there would know about that child, correct? Toji shoots a glance towards the counter. Well, that means it's my own problem. Don't push yourself. I'm not pushing myself at all yet. It's not like I've done jack shit anyways. Whatever you say. Well, I think I'm more worried about Masaki than you. Damn. Okay. I appreciate your concern. Toji lights another cigarette. It's not worth worrying over him. It might look that way because you're his employer, but it's mostly about his mentality. Oh, yeah, that. It's in his instability, or rather, the exact opposite. Even when someone close to him dies, he seems too calm. True. I might be the same. He was seeing a psychiatrist before. Even after Rokushiki was arrested, I think he was still going. Might be a good idea to have him checked again. Since I first met him after his attempted suicide, he hasn't had another examination. And I think you should get checked up too. Yeah. Gulping my cold coffee, I feel myself giving a bitter frown. Okay. I have no idea what that says. Masaki loiters in front of Shinjuku Station, watching the crowds before him. He's continuing his search for Naori here, just as Tokisaka asked of him. Of course, he plans to search not only around this area, but throughout the whole city too. Tokisaka did note that most of the search would end up being a waste of time. But Masaki doesn't know any other way to find Naori. Masaki knows that Naori, being the genius he is, would never be somewhere where others could easily spot him. That's why Masaki will likely be outsmarted if he keeps going on like this. Regardless, Masaki doesn't know the correct path he should be taking here. There's no way he could outsmart Naori. He can't come up with anything but looking for eyewitnesses. But if he does find one, that'll at least open up a trail he can follow. Excuse me. Stealing his nerves, Masaki calls out to a nearby pedestrian. I'm searching for a person that looks like this. Still nothing, even after describing his features. It's the 10th day of Masaki's search and it still hasn't borne any fruit. The situation is starting to look bleak. There's also the issue of the lack of any photograph. But more than that, there's also the fact that the name Blessed Congregation, the organization Naori was a part of, wasn't familiar with most people. It was weighing heavily on Masaki. There should have been reports about it last month. Perhaps people just aren't interested in stuff that isn't directly related to them. Time will always move forward, paying no heed to the suffering of any involved party. They aren't apathetic, it's just how life works. Masaki leans against the wall in front of the station. It's accurate to say things are looking grim. If he at least had a photograph. He turns to a blank page in his notebook. He moves his pencil, using his memory as a guide. He draws a round outline and begins sketching the hair. The almost finished portrait makes him chuckle. It's probably because he never really practiced drawing portraits, but the drawing isn't like Naori at all. Even Masaki wouldn't be able to tell it was Naori. What are you drawing? Masaki promptly closes his notebook and looks up at the voice that startled him. Masaki looks at the face of a high school girl, who's probably around the same age as Yukari. Do you draw portraits? The high school girl asks him that, looking at the notebook he's holding. Well, no. Masaki would have denied it, but then he notices the bag the girl is carrying. Inside is a wooden box which holds painting tools. It probably contains some sort of oil paint, judging from the paint on the surface of the box. However, this sort of deduction is pretty much worthless. Actually, I'm trying to find someone, but I don't have a photograph. I'm trying to draw him from memory. Masaki told her his story and what he's doing, as a part of his hunt for eyewitnesses. Please hold on for a moment. The girl sets down her bag and takes out a sketchbook. Can you tell me his features one more time? Oh, yeah. Masaki describes Naori's features once again. He's tall, has white clothes, and I think his hair is about this long. His face begins to materialize on the paper. Wow, that is fairly accurate. He's slender overall, but he has a chiseled jaw. With some minor adjustments here and there, Naori Kuria gradually begins to appear on the page. You're amazing. With enough practice and lessons, something like this should be easily doable. The high school girl has a nonchalant attitude. I guess I never had anyone give me lessons. Masaki never had anything to teach him drawing back in his hometown. It was all self-taught. Do you draw too, sir? She asks him that as she glances down at the page. A bit in the past. I don't really draw much nowadays. That's why Masaki's portrait ended up the way it did. Is this fine? The girl puts her pencil down and shows Masaki her sketchbook. On the page is Naori Kuria, whom Masaki had just seen several days ago. Does it look like him? Yeah, it's a perfect match. Really? That's good to hear. The girl lets out a sigh of relief. You know, I might have seen this person before. She looks at the portrait she just drew and whispers that. Huh? Where? Stunned by the sudden eyewitness report, Masaki gasps for air as he asks her that in response. It was during New Year's by the shrine at Inokashira Park. I'm sure I saw a guy like him there. Oh, back then. Masaki hangs his head in dejection. New Year's was before everything about the incident came to light. Would you have liked a more recent report? Yeah, I'd ideally want something from the past 10 days. Things were pretty difficult before, but this picture would be a great asset. Can I have this picture? No problem. With her approval, Masaki places the picture in his notebook. What did this person do? She asks him that inquisitively, as if it were natural. He's an old acquaintance of mine. I don't know where he is right now, which is why I want to find him. Masaki gives a vague response. So, thanks. What's your name? I'm Chie Kuboi. With that, the girl, Chie, looks up at Masaki, giving him a weird stare. What? Oh, yeah, I'm Masaki. Masaki realized he didn't give his own name, so he introduces himself in a panic. You're like a detective, sir. Masaki chokes on his words, hearing her sudden response. Well, it's normally fine if he answers that he is a detective. Just kidding. I wish you luck on your manhunt. Softly waving her hand, Chie melts away into the swarming Shinjuku streets. I'm guessing she's going to be a major character in this. The twilight sky signals the end of another Sunday. Yukari begins thinking of tonight's menu, having finished cleaning around the house. The doorbell rings. Huh? There shouldn't be any guests over tonight. Her brother is also out, so it's probably not him. The money collector for the newspaper already came by the other day. It could be the mail. Anyways, she should answer the door. Yes? Who is... Going out in her sandals, Yukari sees a man with his back turned about to leave. Oh, Masaki! Flustered, Yukari quickly calls out to him. Oh, I thought you weren't home. Masaki turns around and smiles. Apologies, I spaced out for a bit. That's rare of you. Did something happen? No, nothing happened at all. Oh, do you have some business here? Even though Yukari knows talking while standing out in the cold may not be the best idea, the words just keep coming out of her mouth. Come on in. I'll treat you to a meal as well. Sorry for barging in. Yukari stops Masaki from going home and instead invites him in. I'll also brew some tea. You don't need to do so much for me. Masaki takes a seat on the sofa as Yukari goes to the stove to pour some hot water from the kettle into a teacup. Do you have something to discuss with my brother? He should be coming home soon, so hold on for a while. Thanks. Masaki bows as he receives the teacup from Yukari. Oh yeah, they were handing out these pamphlets at the station today. Masaki takes out a piece of paper from his notebook and places it on the table. Student art exhibition? Seems like they're holding an exhibition at the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum in Ueno. I thought you'd be interested in this. Oh, A smile creeps on Yukari's face before she can stop it. Something wrong? Masaki tilts his head in confusion. Well, I'm participating in the exhibition as well. Oh, really? Yes, we had to accomplish something as a club, so we sent them something last year. Huh. So that means your painting might be given a distinction. No way, not at all. Yukari shakes her head as she laughs. Everyone who participated is an art student. We're just grateful to have our art hanging in the museum. She was simply lucky that her piece was chosen in the first round of screening. Do you want to have a career in the fine arts? Masaki asks that question out of the blue. Huh? Yukari blinks several times, clearly shaken by Masaki's question. Oh, well, it just sort of felt that way. Realizing the panic he created, Masaki quickly adds in another sentence. Yukari really has no clue. Her future, huh? Now's about the time Yukari should be thinking about her future, and that's something that's been eating away at her. Well... Oh, you're here. As she's about to respond, the living room door opens and Yukari sees her brother. Oh, welcome home, brother. Halting the thoughts in her mind, Yukari stands up. Yeah, sorry for barging in. Masaki bows his head. What about dinner, Yukari? I haven't decided. Have you eaten already? No, not yet. Oh yeah, I guess you can make a light meal since we'll need 3 portions. Yes, that's no problem. It's rare for him to include a portion for Masaki. He usually tells her not to make a portion for him. You want to talk about work for a bit, right? Reiji looks at Masaki as he asks that. Yeah. You'd better not forget. Both of them leave the living room. Yukari lets out a small sigh. She completely forgot the question she was going to ask Masaki. Maybe it was about that pamphlet. There's no point in getting involved in something so trivial. At least her brother finally seems to be doing well. It's been a while since she last saw him motivated to work. She recalls how beaten down and haggard her brother looked when he came home that day last month. Yukari didn't ask for the details, but she knew something did happen. Afterwards, they held a funeral service for an old friend of hers. Her brother came to the ceremony hall, but never went in. Yukari looks at her palms. The wound is still there. She remembers the friend she did save, and the one she didn't. I'd better wash the rice. To Yukari, both of them are her valuable friends, no matter how short their time together was. Monday morning has arrived. Leaning against the sofa, I open my eyes and stare at the ceiling above me. I don't feel tired at all. However, my body still feels sluggish. Are you alright? I see Yukari in her uniform. Yeah, no need to worry. I get up. I shouldn't make Yukari needlessly worry over me. Are you going to eat breakfast? Can you brew me a cup of coffee in the meantime? Yes, I can. Yukari heads for the kitchen, giving me a succinct answer. I have to be wary not to seem too glum. That being said, it's probably written all over my face. At the very least, I'd better put my guard up when I'm around the others. Apologies for the wait. As I stand up and stretch, Yukari comes back in. Thanks. I notice a small castella by the cup. It will help clear your mind if you treat yourself to something sweet. Yukari must have noticed where I was looking. You have a point. It's best to accept her kindness graciously. I sip my coffee and put the castella in my mouth. If you don't mind, I'll go toast the bread now. Yukari heads back to the kitchen again. I'm grateful she isn't fussing over me more than usual. It seems we've returned to how things were before. I'd better live up to those expectations. I grab the newspaper that's by the sofa. Nothing really catches my eye. Seems like there's no further report on Shinzo Mamiya. Yukari comes back with a plate of toast. Here, for you. She spread margarine on it already. I'll be heading off now. You can soak the plates in the kitchen sink after you're done. Yukari puts a coat over her uniform and grabs her bag. Yeah, take care. I watch Yukari as she leaves. Now then, I should get ready too now that I'm done with breakfast. I'm not really over the moon about this, but my hands are pretty much tied. I arrive at Kushiki Hospital, which is a little ways away from Nakano Station. I've already been way too familiar with this place. For a Monday, the hospital is pretty crowded. This can make it a bit difficult to ask them what I want. I ask the reception nurse, who I've grown to know over the past month, for the director, Fumiya Kuchiki, but it seems like he's out for a meeting today. Who's free right now? Well, given this is a hospital, no one really, but at the very least, I'd like to be able to talk to a doctor here. Oh, Tokisaka, how are you? Found one. Well, she isn't free, but at least I'll be able to talk to her. Hi, Dr. Yamanouchi. Can I take a bit of your time? Yeah, for a bit. Koharu agrees to my request. I'd like to talk about Misaki. I make sure no one else is around before I start talking. Misaki, would it not be better to directly talk with the doctor working on his file? Well, she has a point. Well, yeah, it'd be great if you introduced me to the doctor who is responsible for him. Unfortunately, Dr. Kaede Watanuki isn't in today. Kaede Watanuki, so she's a female psychiatrist. Masaki hasn't been coming to his appointments, so I want to make sure he comes in for them. Do you know when she'll be in? Let's see, she should be here this Wednesday. Unfortunately, I don't know if she's able to see patients that day. Yes, I'll let him know. I'll make Masaki come here next Wednesday. Hopefully, this will help him. She is the one examining Michiru Shirosaki as well? Yes, we don't have that many doctors practicing here anymore. Oh, speak of the devil. Dr. Yamanouchi turns her eyes behind me. I follow her gaze and turn my head too. Oh, it's her. Oh. Michiru Shirosaki, who's wearing hospital gowns and has a bandage covering one eye, is standing behind me. I'll ignore the fact that both her hands were in front of her as if she were going to surprise me. What is it? Oh. Nothing. Michiru puts her hands down and looks to the ground. Alright, I'll be taking my leave now. Dr. Yamanouchi bows and walks away. It's just Michiru and me in the hallway. I feel I'll get nowhere if I ask her about that doctor, Kaede Watanuki. Well, if I'm going to be seeing her for an actual consultation, I guess it won't hurt to ask Michiru about what she's like. Uncle. Michiru tugs on my sleeve, but I have no idea who she's talking about. But I feel compelled to reply, because simply ignoring her seems wrong. Were you asking about Kaede? Michiru tilts her head. I guess she heard what we were talking about before. Yeah, what's she like? I take a seat on the hallway bench. Oh, she's weird. Because if Michiru is the one saying that, what's that supposed to mean? She's weird, but she's nice. She watched Carol yesterday. Interesting. I guess she's trustworthy enough as a psychiatrist. Then again, my point of comparison is probably the worst human being imaginable. Uncle, what is it now? Are you lonely? Her sudden prodding leaves me speechless. Am I wrong? I guess not. I let out a self-deprecating laugh as I pat Michiru's head. She's an expert at reading people's hearts. Maybe she could see something with her missing eye. As if I'd believe that baloney. I guess I'm still hollow. Maybe you shouldn't force yourself to fill it. Michiru starts clawing at the bandage on her left eye. Maybe. It's not the best idea to rush these sorts of things. I take her hand so she stops scratching her bandage. Oh. Michiru looks up and points down the hall. Something wrong? I look to where she's pointing and see a young woman walking. Kaede. So that's her. She's younger than I expected. I suppose she graduated recently. She doesn't look like an experienced doctor, so I guess she's still pretty cheery. Dr. Watanuki notices Michiru and stops. Hey Shirosaki, who's with you? A suspicious guy. Then I'd better call security. No, I'm not suspicious at all. In a panic, I call out to Dr. Watanuki, who glances at me. Well, you don't exactly look like your father. Whoa, why do you have to look so displeased? He's not reliable. Yeah, I know. After meeting her now, I think I have a grasp on her. Well, if I'm unreliable, imagine her actual father. So, who are you? Depending on your answer, it would have been better if I already called security. I'm the detective, Reiji Tokisaka. Oh, I've heard about you. So she already heard about me from other people here. They probably didn't have the nicest things to say about me. My apologies, but please make an appointment for Wednesday instead. She thinks I'm here to see her. No, I'm not here for that. I'm wondering if you can see my employee, Tomoyuki Misaki. Ah, him. Her attitude changes again. I guess this is who she really is. Wonderful. Please tell him that it would be great if he showed his face here once in a while. If he has no issues, then it's fine if he's reluctant to show up. Yeah, I'll tell him to come. Regarding that, if he can't make it, it would be fine. She stops herself. If you're also a detective, then you'd also know, I believe. Of course. It was the incident where he and I met. The Kuchiki hospital was also involved. That girl was a wonderful nurse. I heard about the general outline of the case. I just don't get it, but I'm interested as a doctor. You'll have to hear it from Masaki himself. Is Wednesday fine for an appointment? Yes, I just happened to drop by here for a bit, but I should have plenty of time on Wednesday. Understood. I'll let him know. You should get examined too. You won't get a discount though. I appreciate the heads up. Not like I can say anything else. It's like she's seen right through me, or maybe she's just business savvy. Then I'd better get going. See you again, Shirosaki. Yeah, bye-bye. Dr. Watanuki heads down the hall. Did you fall in love with her? I don't understand why she's obsessed about that at all. It's a Tuesday afternoon and I'm walking from Shinjuku Station to my office. I just can't brood and let things fester forever. Right now, I have to search for Naori Kuria's whereabouts, now that he's severed contact with the rest of society. Not here, huh? I was going to ask Masaki about the progress he made, given he had a head start, but he's not in the office right now. I'm hoping he went out to go searching for Naori. My office basically looks like Masaki's abode now. I don't have much work to do at my desk, so it's not like it's a major inconvenience. I take out a bundle of documents from the bookshelf. They contain information from past cases. It's filled with information on various cases, whether I was involved or not. There isn't anything written down about Naori Kuria here. I still haven't organized everything for last month's case. More importantly, I still haven't properly settled the case from 2 springs ago either. One day, I'll be able to calm myself down and slowly review everything that happened during that incident. I believe that day will eventually come. I head out to the station. It won't hurt if I stretch my legs some more than usual today. I really wish I could read these. I'm guessing it's Italian or something, I'm not sure. Masaki heads to the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum in Ueno. How long has it been since Masaki last went here? Masaki visited the museum a lot to study the various exhibits back when he worked for an art gallery. Back then, Masaki never really paid much heed to Shinzo Mamiya's works. However, now that he passed away, Masaki feels compelled to have a closer look at his famed art pieces. Apparently, he and Tokisaka have some history together, but Masaki isn't familiar with all the details. Besides, it doesn't really feel like Masaki's place to ask Tokisaka regarding that. That's an area Masaki feels he should avoid touching with a 10-foot pole. Masaki begins glancing over the various paintings by the entrance. Masaki was undoubtedly informed that Shinzo Mamiya's works are displayed here, but alas, he can't find them. It'll be better if he asks a staff member for help. Masaki looks around and spots a female staff member sitting on a stool. Excuse me, may I ask you a quick question? Oh, it's Stella. She's always here. Yes? The girl gets up from her stool. By all appearances, that girl is a foreigner. Nonetheless, she is fluent in Japanese. I believe that Shinzo Mamiya's paintings are displayed in the museum, correct? We currently have only one of Shinzo Mamiya's works on display here. The rest of them have been returned to his studio. Without missing a beat, the girl explains the situation to Masaki. The name tag pinned on her chest reads Stella. And where would that one painting be located? The girl points her hand in a certain direction. Here it is again. There's always some ominous music playing every time we see it. And before Masaki's eyes appears a massive painting that extends towards the ceiling. Inscribed by the painting is its name, Girl in the Shell. It has an overwhelming allure that would draw in any and all onlookers. Even Masaki finds himself utterly bewitched by the painting. This is the first time Masaki had seen the painting since hearing about the general outline of that case. It's only now that Masaki fully understands the insanity displayed in this painting. Shinzo Mamiya's paintings are ones that convey a somber lust that festers over time to the point of creating an uncontrollable explosion on the canvas. Masaki hears a woman speak next to him. Masaki turns around, noting a sense of familiarity with that voice. It's been a while, Misaki. My name is Masaki, Mizuno. Her name suddenly pops into his head, Sei Mizuno. They used to work in the same art studio. She's an art restoration specialist, which led her to leave overseas for work. Masaki was basically hired to replace her. It's been a while. Apologies for suddenly quitting the way I did. Masaki bows his head. You were fired by the owner, so it's not really a big deal. By the way, what are you doing here? Last I heard, you got caught swindling and they forced you in the military as punishment. That's not the case. Well, I was definitely suspected when things all started. For swindling? No, something else. Masaki would rather not go into more detail. Masaki owes her a lot, but he'd rather not tell her about all that. Regardless, she feels as elusive as ever. Masaki ponders if that's what it means to be an artist. She does have her idiosyncrasies, but it's not like she's a bad person to work with. How's the owner doing? Same as always. She shrugs her shoulders. He buys paintings for cheap and sells them at a higher price after fixing them up. I guess I have a good eye for art, so they do sell well occasionally. Isn't it because you're just so good at fixing up the paintings? Even though their time together at work was short, Masaki recognized that her talents at restoring paintings were second to none. It gives me a chance to hone my skills. Sei looks up at Shinzo Mamiya's Girl in the Shell. The model for this painting was supposedly also an art restoration specialist. I hear she was murdered though. Sei starts to explain, given that she isn't aware that Masaki is acquainted with the people involved. Most of what I read was in the tabloids, so I'm not sure how much of it is true. Sei smiles. Misa Nakahara, the model for this painting, was splendid at restoring artworks. She was an excellent assistant to Shinzo Mamiya. The staff lady from before suddenly chimes into the conversation. Interesting. Sei puts on a forced smile with some reluctance. Tokisaka didn't mention that at all. Makoto Rokushiki is supposedly deeply involved as well, but Masaki doesn't know much about it. Oh, it's already so late. Sei looks at the time. I promised I'd meet my student around this time. Student? I'm an art teacher in my free time. I'll be going now. Take care. Sei waves her hand as she leaves the art museum. Masaki is left alone with the strange staff lady. Reiji Tokisaka? Stella peers straight into Masaki's face. Huh? You know him? Yeah. Stella simply nods. She doesn't elaborate further. Seems like he has plenty of strange acquaintances. Masaki mutters that quietly, in order for her not to hear it. I have a task for Reiji. He'll need to come on Sunday. For Tokisaka? Yeah. Masaki supposes it's a message he'll deliver to Tokisaka. It's surprising, the vast difference between her detailed explanation of art and her bluntness. There's just strange people no matter where he goes. I do assume that Stella is going to be pretty heavily involved in this game, based on, based on her being in the opening sequence, and I have heard some, in some reviews that she plays a bigger role in this plot. After making my rounds across the city during the day, I finally make my way home. The scent of miso soup wafts from the kitchen. I'm home. Welcome home. Yukari peeks her head from the kitchen to greet me. It'll be ready in just a moment, so please hold on for a bit. Yeah, I got it. I head to my room to change out of my suit and into my kimono. I sit down in front of the seating table to go over my notebook and double check everywhere I've been to today. We've expanded the search efforts all the way to Yokohama, and yet we still found no trace of Naori Kuria's whereabouts. As more time passes, people's memories will become more and more foggy. It's not simply just the lack of eyewitness reports. The events of the incident itself will fade from people's minds. These events will remain in the hearts of those directly involved, but for everyone else, it's business as usual. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I still want to find some clues while it's fresh in the memories of the general populace, but I won't hold a grudge if others begin to forget as time marches forward. I hear the doorbell ring as I make my way to the living room. Brother, may you get that? I open the door since Yukari is still in the kitchen. Who would come over at a time like this? Sorry for barging in like this. Oh, it's you. So it's Misaki. What do you want? I take a seat on the sofa. Well, do you know a Stella that works at the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum? Yeah, what of it? Mara Stella. I owe her a lot for helping with that case a while back. I haven't seen her recently, though. It seems she wants you to go to the art museum on Sunday to help with something. Something? Do you know what it's for? No, not really. Misaki simply shakes his head. So Stella has something. It may be related to Shinzo Mamiya's death. They had plenty of his works on display over there. I guess I'll meet up with her this Sunday. Oh yeah, there's something I wanted to talk to you about too. You haven't been going to the hospital lately, have you? Huh? I have though. Misaki raises his left arm. The bandage is still wrapped around his hand. Not for that, I mean for your psychiatric appointments with Dr. Watanuki. Oh. Misaki averts his gaze. I know you're probably reluctant to go, but you should still go. You've been through a lot. I guess so. Misaki nods, but his eyes are still glued to the floor. Dr. Watanuki should be in tomorrow, so see her then. Alright. Seems like Misaki will go. Though I'm one to talk, I guess. Have you finished your conversation? Yukari peeks her head out from the kitchen. Yeah. Dinner ready? Yes. Misaki, will you be eating here too? Yeah, sorry for putting more work on you. Misaki apologetically bows. Alright then, please hold on for a little longer. Yukari goes back into the kitchen. And thus, we both continue waiting in the living room. We've already finished discussing our upcoming plans. I don't have an issue with waiting for the food, but the silence is suffocating. Nevertheless, I can't even think of anything to talk about. Tokisaka. Misaki calls out to me as I'm mulling things over. Yeah? Did you meet Dr. Watanuki at the hospital? Yeah, she seems like a good psychiatrist. Well, it's not like I have any other point of comparison other than that piece of shit. It's hard for me to be around her. It sort of feels like she can see right through me. Yeah, definitely. That is her job after all. Did you guys discuss anything? She didn't really talk about you in particular. Patient confidentiality and all, you know. No, not about me. I'm talking about you. Me? What would I have to talk about? Oh yeah. I'm sorry if this offends you, Tokisaka, but I think you should book an appointment at least once as well. Maybe. Normally, I'd simply jab back and say I don't need it. But the fact I'm not likely means I'm already considering it. However, will going to the hospital really help me in some tangible way? Well, that's basically what Misaki said when I tried to get him to go to the hospital. Misaki, may you help me for a moment? Yukari comes out from the kitchen to call Misaki over. Misaki gets up and freezes when he looks at me. Just go. Nothing will get done if we stare so dejectedly at each other. Huh. Misaki follows Yukari into the kitchen as he tilts his head in confusion. What is he anxious about? Brother, a tea for you. Yukari comes back with a cup of tea. Thanks. And what do you have him doing? I'm having him grind up some sesame seeds. Well, it'll be good if he's able to be that helpful. It may take a little longer. I head out the living room for a quick breather. Oh, we'll add some sesame seeds at the very end, so it'll be ready right away. As I get up and watch, Yukari tugs on my sleeve. I guess I'll wait then. I take a seat on the sofa as I continue looking at Yukari's hand, which is still tugging my sleeve. What is it now? Oh, well... Yukari hastily draws her hand back as she raises her head. Are you alright? There's no stopping the pained smile as I hear her ask me that. Don't worry so much. I'll be fine. Alright. Seems like she doesn't agree. But how the hell am I supposed to say otherwise? I'm starving. Let's try to get dinner ready faster. Oh, yes, I'm on it. Yukari gets up and heads back to the kitchen. Damn it. And here I thought I was keeping up a calm and stable exterior. Misaki and Yukari finally come out of the kitchen, carrying a tray with a bowl on top. Sorry for the wait. Meat and potatoes, huh? Is it a normal meat and potato stew? I blurt that out before I know it. I'm not so sure what is an abnormal meat and potato stew, but I've not added anything strange in there. However, I did garnish it with grounded sesame seeds. You mean she didn't add any bugs to it? Yukari tilts her head as she hands me a bowl of rice. And this black thing is hijiki, correct? Misaki asks that as he timidly looks over the stew. Yes, is it strange to add some in too? Yukari directs that question to me, since she's probably feeling anxious too. There's nothing strange about hijiki. Much better to have the actual thing instead of something that just looks like hijiki. Why does it feel like you're doing a once-over on the meal? Well, dig in. I get a bowl of miso soup. It's normal daikon miso soup. Are you headed to the art museum on Sunday? Oh, yeah, that's the plan. Something happening then? They're unveiling the art exhibition there then. I was thinking of going. Yukari turns her gaze to Misaki. Well, what do we have here? It's fine if you bring him with you since I'm likely doing something by myself. Alright then I'll be borrowing Misaki. Don't worry about returning the favor. It'll be better for me if I pay you back. Are you treating me like an object? Misaki lets that leak as he begins to sulk. Come on, don't say that. Have a carrot. I toss a carrot into his bowl. Come on, behave yourselves when you eat. Yukari looks on in exasperation as she sighs. Misaki opens his eyes to the steaming sunlight from the office window. Misaki gets up from the sofa, noticing just how freezing the office is. Misaki puts the blanket back on as he finds himself continuously blinking. He definitely feels like he had some sort of dream. It was a dream of him back in his hometown. It was a dream of his friends and him simply hanging out during a time when they were all alive and healthy. There's no way they could ever return back to happy, peaceful days. Misaki threw away the name Ayato Hinagami. Misaki is no longer that boy from back then. A melancholic wave hits Misaki. At least it should have, but Misaki feels nothing but emptiness. That's why he was likely told to go to the hospital. Feeling groggy, Misaki stands up. He should eat breakfast first. Misaki turns on the gas stove in the office kitchen and washes his face in the sink. Misaki throws away the leftover tea leaves in the teapot as he mulls over how sacrilegious it is to be reusing the teapot as is. The day-old bread on his plate is as stiff as a rock, while he spreads a pathetic amount of margarine on it. The tea tastes more like water and the bread is stale. What a breakfast. This has been Misaki's breakfast as of late. There's not much else Misaki can make in this office kitchen. Afterwards, he should head out and go to the restaurant that's open in the mornings. After finishing his bread and tea, a sense of relief washes over him. At least his body is starting to warm up. He washes his plate and cup and then wipes the table with a tightly wrung cloth. The dust from the futon floats in the air and seems to shine in the glare of the morning sun. With a sigh, Misaki grabs the dustpan from the corner of the room. He normally wouldn't have bothered cleaning, but his mind has been on its wit's end. He collects the dust from the futon. There's usually not that much dust, probably because it's cleaned often enough. But as he cleans the room as a whole, Misaki notices a small dust ball forming. Careful not to drop and scatter it, Misaki throws it out in the trash bin in the corner. Misaki thinks about doing the laundry before coming to his senses. All he's doing is simply escaping the reality slowly creeping up on him. He's working himself rugged in order to take his mind away from what's really bothering him. He looks at the time and it's just past 9 in the morning. He should get going to the hospital. The despair is suffocating, but it's not like Misaki has any other options. Misaki puts on his coat and prepares himself to leave. If he doesn't go today, there is always next week. Well, Tokisaka will be barking him in all ears all week long. Misaki might as well bite the bullet. Misaki takes the Cho line from Shinjuku Station to Nakano Station. It's only a short walk to Kuchiki Hospital afterwards. The morning examinations have already begun as many of the outpatients are gathered in the front. After visiting the outpatient reception, Misaki waits in the corridor. It's not his first appointment here, but it's been so long, Masaki's heart is racing like there's no tomorrow. Ever since his attempted suicide, Misaki has been thinking that his mental condition is stabilized for the better. Or maybe he's just completely off base. Misaki, come on in. A female nurse calls him in. He's led into a room separate from other outpatients. I'm coming in. A wave of unease washes over Misaki as he walks in. It's certainly been a while. Uh-oh. What is this? Oh, I thought it was going to be like somebody... So I don't know, it sounded really... I'm getting a really ominous feeling from this character. Like, I mean, just the way she's sitting and what she just said. Sitting atop her desk, inspecting Misaki as the psychiatrist, Dr. Kaede Watanuki. Sorry for not keeping in touch. Misaki bows his head. Take a seat over there. Kaede points to the sofa and Misaki meekly obliges. Alright then. With that, Kaede peruses Masaki's medical charts. I see. Seems like you had your fun while you were skipping out on your appointments. What do you mean? I mean, we are in Kuchiki Hospital, Ayato Hinagami. You are related to the director after all. Well, yeah. She can see right through him. After his previous psychiatrist, Makoto Rokushiki, who was formerly known as Tamaki Saito, was arrested, Misaki had gone to see Kaede plenty of times. However, as a psychiatrist, Rokushiki was much more front and direct than her. It's unfortunate what happened to Kamizono. She was a hard-working and smart nurse. Yeah. Mayu Kamizono was a psychiatric nurse. Everything around Misaki became a mess after her murder. No, it went downhill before that. Misaki notices Kaede's eyes fixating on him. You're so easy to read, but it's so difficult to piece you together. What do you mean? It's hard to piece together how your emotions work. You rarely get worked up over anything, do you? Yeah, I guess. Misaki has known that already. Misaki's emotions have been stunted ever since that day before the war, when he lost her. The war didn't help at all either. So many of his old friends and acquaintances have been murdered, but Misaki hasn't shown any real emotion. And when he's happy, is he actually feeling joy? Do you feel satisfied with your current job? I suppose I feel that way. At first it wasn't like that though. Sounds like you have a good job. Seems like you found the motivation to work. If so, then you don't really need to rush to see me. If Misaki doesn't have to go to the hospital anymore, that would work out so much better for him. However, you still have to come. Kaede makes that declaration as if she's seen right through Masaki's inner thoughts. That being said, you won't need any medications for your treatment. The best way to help alleviate your mental condition is to go through conversations like these. Talking like this really only makes Misaki more depressed. But looks like he'll have to keep going with this. Hopefully it'll bring some sort of normality back into his mental state. Alright then, our next appointment shall be 2 weeks from now, on the 17th. The 17th? But you didn't talk about anything, you just called him by his real name and then you just made a bunch of assumptions about how he feels and then that's it? Like what? Is this how psychiatric appointments usually are? Misaki looks over at the calendar. February 17th is a Monday. What's even the point of making it so far in advance? I should be free then. You'd better not miss this one. If you do, that'll make me feel so lonely. Sorry for all the trouble. What's the point of cornering a patient like this? Misaki heads out to the hallway to wait for his bill. Misaki doesn't really feel like his appointment helped him, but it's a pretty common sentiment. If people were able to drastically change, then no one would have any hardships. Misaki shuts his eyes as he sits down on the bench. When he opens his eyes, a familiar stuffed animal is pushed up against his face. Hey! You're up! It's Michiro Shirosaki, who's wearing her hospital gown and is covered in bandages. I wasn't even asleep at all. Okay. Michiru takes a seat beside Misaki, clutching her stuffed bunny. Feeling sick? Michiru's question was normal given where they were. Perhaps she's asking if Misaki went in for a medical examination. Well, I guess. Are you seeing Dr. Watanuki too? Yeah, she's weird. She gets it too. But she's nice. She washed Carol the other day. Michiru hugs her stuffed bunny, Carol. She also fixed the eye that was coming off. Misaki remains silent the whole way through, given how he has no clue how to approach the subject. I get off the train at Ueno. Before, I'd spend my time going around town looking for any news on Naori Kuria. The police is practically doing the same thing. That's why I'd better think of a different approach. I see a familiar silver-haired woman within the crowd. It's Toji. Oh, you came. Without missing a beat, Toji hands over a bunch of documents. Here is the name registry for Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. Sorry for making you do all this. I take documents and scan through it. No worries. I don't know how reliable this information is, given that the institution closed down a while ago. I know, but the police wants to investigate members of the Blessed Congregation too. But shouldn't they already know the connection between Hinagami Pharmaceuticals and Naori Kuria? There's only a minor connection between him and Hinagami Pharmaceuticals compared to the Blessed Congregation. There's a high chance that Naori Kuria has a personal connection that's hiding him. I peruse the name registry to see if any familiar names pop up. However, most of them are dead or in the military now. I have no choice but to keep moving forward. Yes, as Eren Yeager would say, Tatakai, we keep moving forward until all our enemies are destroyed. You'd better not push yourself. You already seem a bit... I know, I'll take a breather. If I don't, I'll only make Yukari more worried. Well, perhaps she's already worried. I'd better make sure to come home every day and rest up, lest I want to worry her even more. That's fine, but what do you plan on doing? Going around town? Yeah, I'll try to find out anything regarding the names on this registry. I'll start with the closest one here, this Fukugawa guy. I likely won't find what I'm looking for anytime soon, but I can't stop here. If I want to save that child, then I have to keep following this path.